SGC here! So today is a movie review of Contraband. So when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I seriously thought it was Brazilian Job, which made me pay full attention to the trailer, but unfortunately it was not. It was just a Mark Wahlberg in a smuggling movie. So the storyline is pretty much this. Wahlberg's character's son-in-law gets into trouble, so now Wahlberg's character now has to do a job to get the money back, so no one will get hurt. The director is... I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. I haven't seen anything done by him before. His shots are pretty generic, nothing really stands out. The cast. Mark Wahlberg is Chris Farraday, the main character. He's the brother-in-law that saves the day. His acting here is quite weak, or maybe just weak. I blame him for accepting the role, and for the writers for giving him such a pretty generic, boring character. In the beginning of the movie, he's all like, oh, I changed my ways, I don't do that stuff anymore. But in the situation and the context of the movie, he's forced to smuggle, which is the life that he left behind. He's good at smuggling, so there's no real problem, there's no, oh, I gotta train myself, blah, 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 sort of the phase in the movie. I think it's because he was good at smuggling that there's no real contrast between legit Chris and illegal Chris, sort of thing. There's no, struggling contrast, oh, I can't do this, sort of thing, or stuff like that. I think this role totally didn't need a Wahlberg or Mark Wahlberg. Anyone can pretty much play this role. I mean, you just gotta look buff and know how to sound smart when you're doing things. I think they cast him because this movie is sort of similar to Italian Job, where he's a thief, smuggler sort of thing, and people see Mark Wahlberg do sort of this stuff and be like, oh, Mark Wahlberg, smuggling, maybe I should check this out, sort of thing. I think that's why they cast him in this. I last saw him in The Fighter, and this is a dive in performance and subject matter. Next up, we have Kate Beckinsale as Kate Farraday, the wife. She's blonde in this and a mother of two. I don't like her as a blonde, so it was kind of like, I see her on screen. It's kind of like, oh, too bad. She's a lot prettier when she's not blonde. I didn't even notice her when I first watched the trailer, and throughout the film, I sort of feel that way too. She's just there, but not really there. So her role here is pretty much the worried wife. There's not really acting here. I mean, she's just like, when are you coming home? Sort of thing. Again, like Mark Wahlberg, I don't think they needed to cast Kate Beckinsale here. Total waste of her talent, in my opinion. Actually, I don't know about her acting talent because the last saw her in Click, and that was in 2006. To me, Kate Beckinsale is to look pretty in a movie, and she ain't pretty in this one, so that's too bad. Next, we have Landry Jones as Andy, the son-in-law. He's the situation. This movie happened because of his stupid mistakes. He's pretty stupid and annoying looking, which fits his character, who was pretty stupid and annoying. Nothing much said about his acting, as I only saw him as Banshee in X-Men First Class. So he's the guy that screams and can fly, if you forgot. Yeah, there's not much role here. He's just like a kid who likes to smuggle, trying to make big money. But at the same time, he's still just a kid. Next, we have Ben Foster as Sebastian Arnold. He's the best friend that takes cares of everything when the husband's not around. His acting is shrug. His character is everywhere. I mean, I don't know what's happening here. I guess his acting reflected that, but he doesn't do anything that truly stands out, that highlights his type of character. I sort of wish he chose a side and played it better instead of just wading through everything. Last I saw him was in The Mechanic. I liked him in Mechanic a lot better. Here he's not really used well, I think. Writing problem. Next we have Giovanni Ribisi, who is Tim Briggs. He's the bad guy. His voice reminds me of Alpha and Up, the black dog, never seen him in anything, so I can't say anything about his acting, but apparently he was in Avatar, but I don't remember him at all. His acting was just limited, nothing really much said. Yep. Next we have J.K. Simmons as Captain. Most of the humor comes from him. I mean, he's so frustrated about everything, it's hilarious. He's just like, ah. He's pretty much Jonah Jameson here. That mad newspaper guy in Spider-Man. So here are my nitpicks. The soundtrack. Everything throughout the movie was pretty much annoying in the soundtrack. I mean, there's this technique that is overused here. I mean, it's like, you have a scene, let's call it scene 1. So you have a scene 1, and you're just walking, and you hear this background music. It has audio, it has vocals, so it's in the background. You're like, okay, fine. And then as scene 1 becomes scene 2, you realize that scene 2 is actually playing this background music within scene 2 itself. Like, I mean, sure, that's kind of, like, yeah, I've seen that used before. It's used way too much here in this movie, and it's just really annoying. And I don't know if it was the theater, but it was excessively loud. So, like, there was a scene where the door was slammed. I couldn't even hear the door slam. And it was just, like, taking the context. It made the scene a lot more happier than it was really. So, I don't know if it was a mood changer. I mean, like, why would you have such contrasting scenes to begin with? Like, scene 1 totally couldn't go to scene 2, so you have to, like, so you try to raise it up with the music, which corresponds with, like, scene 2, so it merges better. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it was kind of annoying. Like, I wasn't even trying to, like, pick it out, but I was like, wow. It was loud, and it was done a lot of times, which stuck here. Character. Wahlberg's character constantly sounds like a whiner, like he wants to save his family, but at the same time he's just like, I gotta be legit about it, and I don't know what he's trying to do. I mean, he changes things, like try to be a better person by choosing what to smuggle over what not to smuggle, and like, does that make a better person? I wish they'd rather cut him out of that aspect of his life, like rather just, or not even, just don't drag it out. Like, don't constantly bring up, oh, he's trying to be a good person here. He's trying to be a smuggler, but a good person. Like, in the Italian Job, you sort of understood why they stole money, because it was from a rich, horrible person, and they were doing it for a cause. Rather, he was just trying to save his family. He just went with the cause, rather than, he's like, is this a good thing to do or a bad thing to do? Another thing here was the excessive swearing. Like, the profanity is just really, like, awkward with the characters. They try to portray this family where it's like, oh, they left the bad life and they're getting a good life, but they keep on swearing. Like, it's just like, I don't know, really excessive. If they swore once or twice here and there, like, that's fine, but it's just like a lot of swearing. Like, I don't like swearing, so it was so bothersome for me that they kept swearing. I mean, you don't need swearing to portray that you were a badass. Like, swearing does not make you a badass. So yeah, they should have toned down the swearing. I mean, like, you could have chose better language or whatever. I mean, that's writer problem again. Another thing is that time does not exist in this film. I mean, they keep saying, oh, you have 10 minutes left, but the action actually happens. It feels longer than 10 minutes. Like, how could they do all this in 10 minutes? It's just not possible. So if I had to fix this, it would probably just be a script change where it goes like, hey, hurry it up, or come on, we're losing time, you gotta get back here sooner or later, sort of thing. Instead of like, you have 10 minutes left, you have 10 minutes left. But I totally don't feel it. Like, it totally pulled out the thrill of that scene where it's like, you have 10 minutes left, and they do all this stuff in this 10 minutes that I swear that they cannot do in 10 minutes. Another thing was that there were too many times where coincidence just occurred, just to move the movie. Like, there were times where like, oh, I'm walking this way and this person looks that way coincidentally so they don't see me, or stuff like that. And it's just like, no, you can't do that to a movie. Like, make it more realistic, like, just to create a thrill. I don't know, a thrill that, I don't know, it just felt forced, and just like, did it really need to be like that? Coincidence? Or you can't just make them like super good and they can do everything in like time, in actual 10 minutes instead of dragging it out. Acting overall was pretty boring. Like, I didn't see anyone that was like excessively a star. Their lines weren't really done well. Like I said before, they didn't need Mark or Kate to be in the lead. Like, give it to some no-name, or have like Mark lead it and have some no-name actress, so we can have an uprising actress, or the other way around. I mean, actually it would have been better if it was like a Kate Beckinsale with a no-name dude, where like Kate would have brought his name up, and Kate's character is not really crucial. Like, sure, she plays a crucial part, but her acting here is, you don't really need her. So my score to this film is, don't watch it. You don't really need to watch it at all. Like, it's just a smuggling film that's, I don't know, like, I thought it was boring. So that's it. My review of Contraband. Like it, check it out, and see you Friday.